Hey y'all, welcome back. Today on Game Geeks, we're going to be reviewing The Dogs of Hades for Savage Worlds. This is from Savage Mojo, which is part of their overall Savage Suzerain campaign, which is an upcoming review. Honestly, it's different enough that I'm taking a lot of time to read through it and make sure I get it right before I give you a review of it. So what I'm going to be presenting to you today is using Dogs of Hades as an actual Savage World setting, leaving out some of the Suzerain pieces of it. So while it's not an entirely complete review in that sense, I think I can give you enough idea about what this game is about and then discuss how it applies to Savage Suzerain when I talk about that in a future review. With Dogs of Hades, this is a Greeks in space game. Now, it does beg the question, and it opens up comparison to the other Greeks in space game that I know of, which is Hellas. While the difference here is this: Hellas is 300 in space. This is daring do, things that you're doing that are awesome. Dogs of Hades is much more in the line of Dune, where you're in space, it's a culture, it's a very heavily politically motivated game. There's a lot of politics you can delve into. Now, if you want to skip it and just fight barbarians in wild space, by all means, go ahead. But I think you're missing part of the flavor of this game. I think they've done a very nice job wedding Greek mythology and what we understand of Greek culture into a science fiction role-playing game. It really brings in some of the ideals that the Greeks held, such that malformed characters, ugly characters, one eye, one limb, etc., are problematic in that setting. And it very specifically gives you a sidebar to talk about that. There's a nice blend of science fiction with classical Greek tropes in here, and it's sort of layered on very nicely. I'm going to give you the example in terms of weaponry. So the weaponry you have, some of these are gifts from insert name of God here. So a gift from Artemis might be the recurve blaster. It's a blaster which you would expect in a science fiction setting, but it's shaped like a bow, and it fires particularly powerful arrows. Now, the level of the bow is determined by your strength. It goes everything from light, which you need a strength of D6 for, and then the damage for your arrow is 2d6 plus something. Sorry, I didn't write that one down. Up to a heroic, which requires a D12 strength and does 2d12 damage when it hits. This is pretty freaking powerful, ladies and gentlemen. Now, you've got two choices for your arrows. You've got the normal bioceramic, which is a standard arrow that you can recover on a normal arrow recovery roll, or you've got what's called the blaster arrows, which give you a higher armor penetration and are not recoverable. These detonate on impact. These are to fight your hero types. Then there's the Hades blade, which is a monomolecular powered blade that does slightly more damage than you'd expect and has better cutting power. Finally, in terms of this, there's a gift of Athena, which is the Aegis force shield, which is a bioceramic shield which has a metal netting laid over it that projects an energy field that makes it actually much harder for them to hit you, especially in ranged combat. What I mean by that is you add the parry bonus you get from the shield, you also add that to the ranged target number. So if you've got a pretty heavy big shield you're carrying around, it makes it much more difficult for ranged people to hit you, basing on the fact that it's a big shield and it absorbs more damage than you would normally expect. The cultures presented in here are the Athenians, which are your Greeks. Now, I don't want to put it under one umbrella because there are many, many political factions under that, but it's one sort of race or culture. The other two you're facing are civilized barbarians, which get along okay, but they're still sort of second-class citizens in Greek society or Athenian society. And then finally there are the wild barbarians, which are the kill you, which really don't fit in as player character races unless you're playing at the fringe. One of the things I liked is it gives you real-world models for some of these barbarian cultures so you can get an idea of what you're basing it on. The planets in this game are called gardens. So you might be on the garden world, where it's a planet that is capable of supporting life. The Greek gods play a role in here. The Greek gods play a role in that as you pray to them, you might get a bonus based on the god in question. Now, there's one sort of character subrace I should mention while we're on the subject, and it's not really a subrace as much as it is sort of a mild mutation that pops up every once in a while. They're called the Logicians. These are hyper smart characters who are capable of carrying on advanced math in their sleep. One of the advantages to this is they're the only people who are capable of doing the hyperspace calculations you need for faster than light travel through the crystal drives. A disadvantage is they're socially awkward and they don't really know how to fit in. If these remind you of the Mentats from Dune or the Mentrix from the Metabarons setting, then you're not wrong. There's a lot of overlap there. I might also add here that what's kind of cool is they give you the option for Logician Fighting, which is using your advanced knowledge as combat advantages. It sort of changes the linked skill for fighting to smarts instead of agility, so you can have a low agile character with this edge and you're a logician, and you could all of a sudden have a D10 or a D12 in fighting based on how smart you are. Now, there's an extensive history that it gives the players, how this came to be, blessings from the gods, etc. And then when you go into the GM guide, you realize that that's not quite true. I'm not going to get into it because it delves into some of the backstory that I think would be really interesting to discover. I will point to the fact, though, that this is much more Dune-like than you realize on the surface of the game. Finally, in the book, it gives you one of the best plot point campaigns I've ever seen in a Savage Worlds book that goes into a lot of the mystery of the setting. You find out more things, and the final battle can be fought politically as opposed to a straight up must kill you with my Hades sword sort of game. This is one of the more interesting Savage settings I have ever seen. I really enjoy it because it takes a norm that you would expect, sci-fi gaming, it adds on something a little different, Greeks, and then it puts the whole thing in a blender and adds a healthy dose of something else that you weren't expecting. There are other reviews of the Savage Suzerain settings coming up, including Millennial Knights and Noir Knights. Watch for those in upcoming reviews. Have fun gaming, y'all.